Not sure. If you're watching us live, we're getting started in just a minute.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and Chag Sameach. Thank you for joining us here at Pasadena Jewish Temple and Center for this celebration of Shabbat and also Sukkot. Sukkot started just a little while ago, and so we're going to catch up to it. This is an interesting service, interesting to me anyway, I hope to you too, that when the holiday and Shabbat coincide like this, because of the specialness of the holiday, our custom is that we don't have as much in the way of Kabbalat Shabbat. Kabbalat Shabbat was supposed to sort of lift us up out of the week into the sanctity of Shabbat. We've already got that going for us with Sukkot, and so we're going to have a little bit of a shorter Kabbalat Shabbat. We're just going to do the Psalm for Shabbat in just a second. Maybe I'll make up for it with a longer sermon. I don't know. But then we'll go into our evening prayers. So instead of starting with Shalom Aleichem, which we just shared a little tune of, we're going to go into lighting the candles or blessing the candles that have already been lit, because it's been dark for a little bit now. But if you have your candles and you want to get close to them, or you want to light your candles at your home, you do you. But we're going to do the blessing for it's Shabbat, but it's also Yom Tov, and I'm going to pass it over to Cantor Ruth for that.
Let's join together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת ושל יום טוב.
Amen. Well, Shabbat Shalom, and once again, good Yontif. We are going to recognize Shabbat with a psalm that was created just for Shabbat. It's going to be Mizmor Shir L'Yom HaShabbat on page 23, and we'll start there together. Shabbat, Once again, if you're just joining us, welcome to PJTC. We're celebrating Shabbat and Sukkot this evening. And so that was the entirety of our Kabbalat Shabbat, getting ready for the Sabbath day. I'm going to share just a few brief words of Torah. I was just kidding about that longer sermon tonight. In fact, I want to tell you a story. But first, I want to endorse the idea that I hope that this Sukkot teaches us that our openness can sustain us. And there's an old Hasidic story that illustrates this idea beautifully. If you can put yourself back in the town of Slonim. I don't know if you've been to Slonim, but it's about a minute. It's not a big place. But in the town of Slonim, there was a custom that before people would celebrate Sukkot, they would go to the local etrog dealer and they'd get an etrog. That's the citron, the sort of lemon family thing that we have as a part of our gear for Sukkot. And they have certain qualities to them. They're supposed to be unblemished and have this part and not have that part. And so what the people, very religious people, would do in Slonim is they'd go to the etrog dealer and they would before they would buy the etrog, they would sort of earmark one. They'd take it to their rabbi, Rabbi Azel Harif, and he would inspect the etrog. And if he said, okay, this is a fit etrog, it's got all the right pieces and no blemishes, then the person would go back to the etrog dealer and purchase it. But one year, there was a particularly bad shipment of etrogs. And I don't know if you know where Slonim is, but it's not in the etrog band, if you will. So they get a bad batch of etrogs. And the dealer is having a terrible time, and he goes to the rabbi because he says, like, look, your people are bringing the etrogs to you, and you're declaring that none of the etrogs that they bring to you are suitable for Sukkot. And so they come back to me and they say, no, thank you, maybe next year. And so, Rabbi, can't you just, it's a bad etrog year. Can't you just look the other way on this one, and then I'll be able to, make my living? And the rabbi says, look, I am delegated the authority from one true judge to inspect these etrogim. And if I see one that is not up to the standards that I've learned in the Torah, then I can't lie. I can't say that this is a fit etrog when it's not according to the rules. However, God forbid I put you out of business, and God forbid I have Jews who are not celebrating Sukkot or feeling diminished in how they're celebrating Sukkot because of something that I said. So I tell you what we're going to do. What I want you to do when one of the people of my congregation comes to you and says, I'd like to take an etrog to be inspected by the rabbi, give him or her 2 etrogim and say, here's 2 etrogim, take these to your rabbi and ask him which is better. And so the people would take 2 etrogim, they would come to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, which of these 2 etrogim is the better etrog? And so the rabbi would look at them, and without any impairment of integrity, without jeopardizing the rabbi's duty to the tradition or to the Jew in front of him, he could say, this etrog is the better etrog. Now go back to the etrog dealer. And in this way, in a bad etrog year, the rabbi sustained Sukkot. Nobody felt that their etrog was unacceptable, right? Nobody fell down in the mouth. The etrog dealer was able to feed his family until the next etrog season, and Sukkot was saved. This is what I mean by allowing our openness to sustain us. There's philosopher Franz Rosenzweig, who said that Sukkot is this interesting holiday in the sense that it is both about wandering and it's about rest. It's about wandering insofar as dwelling in these temporary structures of the Sukkah are to remind us of the time that we wandered through the wilderness and we couldn't plant anywhere permanently. So we dwelt in temporary structures. And this reminds us of our condition of wandering for 40 years in the wilderness. At the same time, it's a Chag. It's a time to celebrate. And it's a time for rest. It says about this holiday in the Torah, this is going to be a time of rest for you. You don't work in your occupations. You put up this little hut and you dwell. You know, leshe b'sukkah is some people think it means to sit. That's leshevet. It's to dwell in the sukkah, to do everything in the sukkah that you would do in your normal residence, only with a little bit of a breeze and a bit more openness. So my blessing for you this Shabbat evening and this Erev Sukkot is that, let's say in a bad etrog, we find ways to make it work. We find questions that we can answer with integrity without diminishing how we feel about our tradition or about sustaining community with each other. May your openness be your sustenance. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. We're going to continue with our evening prayer service, which starts with our call to prayer, the Baruch Hu on page 28, page 28. Please rise.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Amborach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai
Baruch
Eloheinu melech
Adonai.
haolam Elav Hakamam.
קוראים בלילה ולא מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור. ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה. אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני,
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
אמרי ורבי.
Amen. You may be seated. We move from this blessing of light to a blessing for God, for God's great and constant love, Ahavat Olam, on page 29, page 29.
אהבת עולם בית ישראל, עמך אהבת, עמך אהבת. תורה ומצוות, חוקים ומשפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח מחוקיך, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, והם שמעו תשמעו מצוות השם.
And continue with the next passage at your own pace on page 30, and we'll get back together in just a minute. We continue together at the top of page 31. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, Daber el bnei Yisrael, v'amarta lehem, v'asu lehem tzitzit, al kanfei bigdehem l'dorotam, v'nanu al tzitzit hakanaf, v'til techelet, v'haya lechem letzitzit, uritem oto, uzchartem et kol mitzvot Adonai, v'asitem otam, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם ואחרי עיניכם אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני
אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 32, page 32.
כי הוא אדוני אלוהינו. ומלכות ורצון כאילו עליהם, אשר מידם ולעשה לכנו שירה, בשמחה רבה וברוך כולם. We continue together in the middle of page 32 with Mecha Mocha. מקיף אדוני את יעקב וגר ומי חזק ממנו. Together. ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Shemo.
גל ישראל.
Amen. On page 32, we ask, help us, Adonai, to lie down in peace and awaken us again, our sovereign, to life. Spread over us the shelter of your peace, the Sukkot Shlomecha, and guide us with your good counsel. We have Hashkivenu on page 33, page 33.
ברוך אתה אדוני, הבורא סוכת שלום עלינו, ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
Amen. We continue with Vishamru on page 34, page 34 at the top.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. אוי 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 ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
In the middle of page 34, we have Chatzi Kaddish followed by the private Amidah for the evening service. Please note that this is the Amidah not just for Shabbat, but also for the festival of Sukkot. So after the Chatzi Kaddish, instead of going over to the next page, we're going to go to page 41b. This is a time where you can lean on the words that are from our tradition, starting on page 41 through page 44, or you can make room for whatever prayer is in your heart to speak tonight, or both. So we're going to have the Hatzi Kaddish, and then we're going to be quiet for everybody to share their own prayers for a while, and then we'll get back together. Start on page 34, middle of page 34, Hatzi Kaddish.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
Amen.
ועלמא דברה חירותה וימליך מלכותה,
לחייכון
וביום
וביומכון
ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה, ובזמן קריב ויברוך.
Amen.
יהא שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה.
Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה.
Rihu.
לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, ויברוך.
Amen. So time for the Amidah, beginning on 41b. Don't forget the insertions for Shabbat. We conclude the Amidah with the Kaddish Shalem on page 48. Page 48.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמר רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא דיבר אחרית וימליך מלכותה וחי יכונו ומכונו וחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו.
Amen.
יהי שמי רבה מבורך. לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה.
Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח ויתבע ויתרמה ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי דקודשה.
Brihu.
לאלה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירם בלמה ויאמרו.
Amen.
תתקבל אצלותנו ואותנו לכל ישראל קודם אבוהם דבשמיא ויאמרו.
Amen.
יהי שלום משמיא וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו.
Amen.
עושה שלום
במרומיו.
הוא
הוא
יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ויאמרו.
Amen. We can begin to end the service with Aleinu on page 51. Page 51, please rise.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. על כן נקווה לך אדוני אלוהינו יראת מרב תפארת עוז. כי המלכות שלך היא, וללמיה תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב את תורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, ושמו, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. This is a time in our service where even as we gather together in joy, we also remember those who are no longer with us. In this coming week, we're marking the Yahrzeit, and that's the anniversary of the passing of Albert Reisman, Arkady Soibel, Arnold Davidson, Aaron Cooperman, Austin Phelps, Benny Lauren, Bertha Goldman, David Davis, Estelle Ridman, Esther Masti, Eva Rabinovich, Harold Ginsberg, Irene Groban, Jack Unicy, Jan Komrus, Jessica Zaharov, John Dietrich Schroeder, Judith Faden, Julius Ganulin, Catherine Kokas, Kenneth Mann, Lillian Rebecca Kahn, Linda Bettman, Louis Donner, Louis Gann, Margaret Hochschild, Morris Jacob Burton, Muriel Walter, Rebecca Cohen, Rose Rosenberg, Rosalind Wynn, Ruth Silverman, Stanley Robert Svanken, and Sidney Gelber. We are also mourning the loss of Rick Snyder, who's the husband of Lori Snyder, a PJTC friend from the Weitzman Day School, father of Josh and Nicole, and brother-in-law to Robin and Aaron Goichenberg, who passed away on Friday, September 18th. A memorial service was held this past Wednesday at 5:30. We also mourn the loss of Judy Unger, who was predeceased by her husband Ed, and mother of, Alan and Debbie and David. She passed away last Shabbat and was laid to rest this past Wednesday afternoon also. We pray that Rick's and Judy's memories be for a blessing, that their families are comforted. Hamakom yenachem. May God comfort and strengthen those families at this time. If you are in mourning for anyone or observing a yard site, please rise for the mourner's Kaddish on page 52, page 52. Let's say it together. Yitgedal v'yitkedash shemei rabbah,
Amen.
ba'alma divra kirute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon u'v'yamechon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevorach leolam u'lalmei almayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. If you're standing, you may be seated for a few brief but meaningful announcements. This is an action-packed week in the Jewish calendar. You thought the holidays were over. You are half right. So we have Sukkot, which started tonight, as I may have mentioned. That was tonight, and then tomorrow morning, and for the next 2 mornings, in fact, we're going to have Sukkot services, one of those 2-day holidays, and then some. So we have Sukkot service tomorrow at 9:30. It's also a Shabbat service, and just note, if you're into lulav and etrogs, like that fine story I told earlier, it's our custom not to wave lulav and etrog on Shabbat because you may strain yourself carrying them. So if you don't see lulav and etrog at tomorrow's Sukkot service, that is quite on purpose. But we will be back in the lulav and etrog business on Sunday for our Sunday morning service. Next weekend, we have more services. We're having our Friday night Shabbat service and Saturday morning Shabbat and Shmini Atzeret service. And those are also honoring the wonderful person, Sydney Shavira, who's becoming Bat Mitzvah next week. So we have our Friday night service is a Friday service. Saturday morning is a Saturday morning service with Shmini Atzeret, the least understood Jewish holiday. So come stick around for an explanation of that. And also celebrating with Sydney and her family. And then Sunday, we will have Simchat Torah services. And I can't wait to see what that looks like. So Sunday, October 11th, Simchat Torah services at 9:30. I want you to save the date on Thursday, the 15th, the PJTC Social Hall featured speaker is Michael Harrington. I've heard that he is a delightful Scotsman, complete with accent. He is the scientific director of neuroscience at the Huntington Medical Research Institute, answering the question, is it possible to delay or prevent Alzheimer's? There's people who are struggling with this now or worried about it now in their families. So I think this is going to be a fascinating discussion. It's also going to be our last Thursday night social hall for a while, but don't worry, they're going to transform into Tuesday night social halls after that. So this Thursday, it's next Thursday, 15th. Come for that. Brought to you by our Caring Community Committee. So please note, there is no religious school this Sunday or next Sunday because of various holidays. Our high holiday food drive to support Foothill Unity Center continues through October 7th. So please continue to drop off your bags in the blue container out front. And I have a note here. I was going to save this for tomorrow, but I just can't wait. Ruth Kay, one of our regulars here, is going to be celebrating her 90th birthday this Wednesday, but why not start celebrating early? So if you see Ruth, say happy birthday to her. In the meantime, please stay home, stay healthy, and thank you once again for celebrating Shabbat and Sukkot with us here at PJTC. Wherever you're coming from, you're in the right place, and we're delighted that you're here. So our final duty for this service is to sing our way out, as we often do in song. And I'll ask you to stand and sing with us wherever you are, and then stick around for Kiddush.
Let's join together.
עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד
עוד
יבוא
יבוא
שלום
שלום
עלינו,
עלינו,
עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם, סלאם, שלום, סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם, סלאם, שלום. One more time. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם.
Good Shabbos, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Stick around for just a little bit for Kiddush. If you've got some challah where you are or a celebratory beverage, please bring them back to the screen, and we will see you in just a minute.
If you have your Siddurim with you, your blue ones, Sim Shalom, because it is Chag, the Kiddush for Yom Tov is on page 50, not 49, and it will have some additional passages for Sukkot. Let's join together. ויהי ערב ויהי בוקר יום השישי, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה, ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי, ויקדש אותו, כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. With a different melody. סברי רבנם ורבותיי וחבריי.
L'chaim.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל עם, ורוממנו מכל לשון, וקידשנו במצוותיו. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, שבתות למנוחה ומועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון. את יום השבת הזה ואת יום חג הסוכות הזה, זמן שמחתנו באהבה מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת עם כל העמים, ושבת ומועדי קודשך באהבה ורצון ושמחה וששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
מקדש השבת בישראל והזמנים.
Amen.
And together, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה לחיים.
And if you'd like to join me in washing your hands, now is the time to do that sort of thing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim.
Amen. And last but not least, still Ram Chalas. I guess it continues until Simchat Torah, Rabbi, the Ram Chala thing. Cool, maybe they didn't have any more of the other ones. Let's join together.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, המוציא לחם מן הארץ בתאבון.
Amen.
חג שמח, שבת שלום. We will see you tomorrow.